The opinions expressed by the host and guests in this show are not necessarily the views of Children's Health Defense.
Good morning, CHD. Welcome to Pediatric Perspectives. We are looking at children's health challenges from a different perspective, one that includes critical thinking, and we're not afraid to give you the honest truth. Back today, my guest is Dr. Michelle Perro.
Happy to be here, Paul. Thank you.
I'm not going to go through all the accolades because that takes up like half an hour. You are the integrative pediatrician who has, I think, the most experience in environmental medicine, hands down, perhaps in the world. So thank you for coming. I wanted to touch on something that to me is a little bit complicated, but you can probably help us get to the bottom of it. And that's GMO science and how it's touching our lives and what we can do about it to avoid harm.
100%. Thank you, Paul. I was not an expert on genetic modification 15 years ago, 20 years ago. I started about in the early 2000s. And frankly, I didn't know in the early 2000s what a GMO was. And one of the parents in the practice where I was working at the time gave me Jeffrey Smith's book, Seeds of Deception. I read it. And I'll never forget the light bulb moment that I had. It was like the Broadway band was playing. I read about Dr. Arpad Pusti's work in Jeffrey's book. And it was the first study on GMOs done in the Rowett Institute in Scotland. And he found that GMOs, without pesticides, just GMOs, caused harm to rats, causing leaky gut, reproductive issues, immune issues. And Dr. Arpad Pusti initially thought they would be fine. He came out and talked about his data. 2 days later, he was fired from the Rowett Institute. His work was confiscated, lost all his data. He went on to have a heart attack. This is not HIPAA violation. He told the story. Then he made a movie called Scientist Under Attack with another local researcher here from UC Berkeley, near where I live, Dr. Ignacio Chapella, who also showed harm from GMOs. So imagine, this is 1996 to 1998, and we've been eating this stuff ever since, unregulated. Now, what people don't understand is that GMOs are not the same thing as hybridization, sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction is where you take two fruits, you kind of blend similar traits, and you create, a new fruit through reproduction, selecting a trait that you want, like Tangelos. That's a GMO, not a GMO, that's a hybridized fruit. GMOs, on the other hand, is using genetic traits you want via a gene gun that you inject in the plant. And you have to do all sorts of nasty things to this plant to get them to uptake that quality you want. The quality that industry wanted, Monsanto, now Bayer, was that when you sprayed glyphosate-based herbicides, Roundup ready crops, the crop wouldn't die, just the weeds around it. So before, they couldn't spray the crops because the crops would die. But once they started growing GMO crops, corn, soy, canola, cotton, alfalfa, papayas, zucchini, apples, certain potatoes, etc. Now, there are many genetically modified foods, and they keep going. So they said they're generally recognized as safe. They said they're nutritionally equivalent. They said there's no issue. That's not true. We eat GMOs with their associated pesticide. However, the GMOs alone, without pesticides, cause changes in the nutritional content, lower, cause changes in glutathione and oxidative stress, lower, cause reproductive issues. As per the work of Dr. Pusti, it was only reproduced once, very little data on the effect of GMOs on human health, by the way, just a handful of studies, Paul, which is also just shocking. When you pair it with glyphosate-based herbicides and other more toxic herbicides now, because weeds became resistant to it. Weeds are way smarter than we are. They sprayed more genetic traits, more toxic foods. We're eating more of the pesticide. Now you're eating toxic GMOs. Now you're eating toxic pesticides. Pesticide spraying has gone off the charts. And now we know the side effects from glyphosate-based herbicides, which we can get into. So that's a little bit of a super quick history of GMOs. And we've now all been eating them 25 years, unlabeled. We tried to label it. We started GMO science in 2014 in response to a legislation we're trying to pass here in the state of California that consumers would get to know what they're eating and label GMOs. We were going to win that until something called Grocery Manufacturers Association, a bunch of big food came together, poured millions of dollars on our states, created doubt, defeated it. It was also passed in a couple other states like Vermont, Colorado had legislation, your state of Oregon, Washington. And then the government said, nope, no GMO labeling at all. We called it the Dark Act in 2016. You do not know what you're eating. 90% of Americans do not want to eat GMOs. By the way, we did create awareness, but because of the government law, why can't we get to know what we're eating where it's not labeled? People so don't want to eat this stuff that they even changed the name. It's now called Symbio, bioengineered. They don't say GMO. They'll say genetically engineered on occasion or bioengineered ingredients. It's on Campbell's soup. It's everywhere. So people don't even know what they're eating. Really hard to avoid because it's if restaurants, for example, we've talked about that on another show, are using GMO canola, super cheap oil, don't ever use it. Almost all the canola in the US is GMO. So if you go to a restaurant, you're eating GMOs. And what do kids like to eat? Often Mexican food, often Asian cuisine, like Chinese food, GMOs, corn, soy, those are common ingredients that kids consume regularly. Now, what they also don't tell you, and then we can talk about this before I get off my soapbox, Paul, those microbes, these new genetically modified organisms, GMO stands for genetically modified organism, are a little bit promiscuous. And they swap information via something called plasmids, little DNA swapping, a little bit promiscuous sexually with our own microbes, creating new breeds of microbes that we haven't seen before. Those new microbes, unidentified, produce new proteins we've not seen before. New proteins, body saying, oh, look, foreign invader. Kid has leaky gut anyway. We'll just make an immune response, eventually leading to inflammation. And these new microbes might be producing byproducts that don't make us feel great. And we can now be owned and patented by Monsanto Bayer. So that's a little intro to GMOs 1.0.
Okay, that was awesome. I want to pull out of that something that I became aware of over the last decade, which was that, once I learned what you just shared, there's most of the main ingredients used in anything that's processed, anything that's in a restaurant, is almost all of it's GMO. So the things you went quickly on, things like corn. So what has corn? All the high fructose corn syrup, corn, wheat, sugar beet, so anything sweet. Rattle them off. You had a few of the. It's like it's almost impossible to avoid GMO unless you grow your own or are really sure you're getting organic.
That is 100% true. So all and I did rattle them off because whoa, I forget that, Michelle, slow it down. I'm from New York, Paul. I talk quick. Okay. Corn, like 97% of the corn in the US is GMO. Soy, canola, cotton. You say, well, we don't eat cotton. We wear cotton. We use cotton tampons. We put cotton pledgets in our dental work, and they use cottonseed oil. Where? How about those French fries at In-N-Out Burger? They use cottonseed oil. 100% inflammatory. Alfalfa, we don't eat alfalfa. Oh, cows do. Cows eat alfalfa. And they also it's in the bedding of our animals. So they are contaminated with super high levels of glyphosate-based herbicides and GMOs. It's in some fruits, the Arctic apple, the innate potato. The genetic engineer that made the innate potato, Dr. Caius Romans, ROMMENS, wrote a book, Pandora's Potatoes, the worst potato ever. It was on Amazon 2 weeks before it got yanked. And he himself said, the genetic engineer who made them in Idaho for Simplot said that the worst potato ever, meaning you cannot see the browning. I just had to share that story. That just kind of makes me irate every time I think about it. Wheat is not GMO. They keep trying to introduce GMO wheat, but what they do with wheat is they use Roundup as a crop desiccant. So they sprayed at harvest. So the plant literally dies and spits out the seeds, and it's easier to harvest, and it dries the crop out in areas that are damp, like in certain areas in Canada, in our Northwest. So it's an off-label use. And which foods have the highest levels of glyphosate, by the way, glyphosate-based herbicides? Oats, wheat, and legumes, because it's the Roundup and other, there are 800 types of glyphosate-based herbicides, by the way, and globally, are used as desiccants, super high. And so papayas from Hawaii, unless they're organic, they are also genetically modified. And the list keeps growing. They keep releasing more and more genetically modified foods. By definition, if you eat organic food, they cannot include GMOs. But can organic crops be contaminated by GMOs? 100%. Big case out of Canada, the Percy Smizer case. Anyway, I don't want to get into so many details. We'll spend the whole show on it. So according to the USDA, about 5 to 9% of organic crops are contaminated. However, it's still so much better than eating the GMO crops. So what companies do, certain individuals, I can mention his name, we'll talk about it, who did it, created something called Apeel, A-P-E-E-L, and they started coating fruits and veggies like avocado, apples with this coating that's made from extracted grapeseed oils with toxicants in it and solvents in it. There are heavy metals in it. And then you cannot wash it off so that the fruits and veggies can stay on the shelves for up to 3 months. And this is their response, because they saw organic sales going sky high. I'm showing my hand, super high. And they didn't like it. So they still wanted us eating this toxic poop, and they coated it. Just, wow. Yes, this is true. And they don't always have the Apeel label on it. You have to ask your local grocer, farmer, wherever you are, if they use Apeel. Whole Foods got so much heat for this, I believe, but they still carry some Apeel. And what one grocer in Whole Foods told me was, well, we're labeling the box, but not the individual fruits. Well, I'm not in the box.
Apeel is A-P-E-E-L, correct?
Yes. And people can go look and see who started and funded that. That's up to folks can look at that up.
It sounds like it's being used a lot.
Apeel is, and especially on apples. And I recommend apple cider vinegar a lot. And I don't even know now if it's in Mrs. Bragg's, if they're using Apeel, because there are certain funders who took over that company. A lot of these small mom and pop companies like Tom's and, Mrs. Bragg's got bought out by bigger corporations or bigger funders who have different agendas than healthy children. They're not kind of thinking the same way we are. So it's really making like you need a PhD to go to the supermarket. Poor parents.
You have the PhD and well, you have the MD, and you probably have a PhD and a whole bunch of other Ds, but at least honorary you should have. When you go to the grocery store and you go to the organic produce section, do you just buy everything there, or are there still some things you're on the lookout for?
I buy everything organic. Once I cleared that my local store is not using Apeel, I asked, and I know the guy who owns the store, and he said, nope, we do not carry Apeel. We don't support Apeel. We're an organic market. I buy everything organic, even though there's something called the Dirty Dozen, the Clean 15, where some foods are cleaner than others. There's certain foods that are sprayed you must avoid, like strawberries, for example, cleaner watermelon, because they have a thick rind. But personally, I buy it all organic because I want to make sure my food's not sprayed. I ask my local grocer or farmer's market if they use Apeel. I make sure they don't. And then I wash off the fruits and veggies when I bring them home, just to kind of take off whatever geoengineered air pollution came down on my foods, wash that off. And so that's what I do. I take really great care in my food because my food nourishes my soul. It's really the lifeblood. Food is medicine. So if we're not eating the best that we can afford, we're not taking care of this body that carries us through life. And I'd say prevention is so much easier than treatment, Paul, as you know. Yep. So prevent by what you eat. There's that much care has to be taken into our food and water. So when you go to another country, let's say you go to Mexico, you're super careful what you drink and what you eat. You wouldn't eat certain street foods. You don't eat water from certain areas because it's contaminated. It's well known. Same thing here in the US. Our food is contaminated. Don't drink certain things. Don't eat certain foods because they're contaminated. Maybe not with microbes, but with toxicants,
Yeah.
chemical toxicants.
So what do you wash your vegetables with?
I use a vinegar water with a little baking soda solution. That new formula is in my new book. The sister of what's making our children sick is making our children well. Or basically, if I have a vinegar water spray, I'll just vinegar water it down. I throw a little bicarb on there, and I just kind of scrub it off.
Approximately, if I want to make this mixture for myself, I just get some white vinegar and
I use white vinegar, filtered water, and I put in a teaspoon of baking soda, and I put that, and then I spray it, and I just kind of wash off my fruits and veggies. Some people I know soak it. They're really kind of more hardcore. I just rinse mine, and I go to the farmers. I live in California. We have beautiful farmers markets from April to the end of October, and I know those farmers because I go and I talk to them every week, get to meet them. And if parents say to me, well, farmers markets are expensive, they are. We have to support our farmers, and they're coming down to bring the food to you. If you go at the end of a farmer's market, they'll often sell you the imperfects or the ugly stuff that didn't sell, and they'll sell it to you cheaper. But and then support your local farmers. The organic farmers, it's more expensive to grow organic. Conventional crops are subsidized by the government. Organic crops are not. Our government does not support organic eating, healthy eating. Conventional crops are the soy, corn, canola. Those are the conventional crops.
I want to highlight something you said. It almost sent shivers through my body and goosebumps. You buy everything organic and you wash it because you want to nourish your soul. People don't talk about things like your soul in medicine or on very many shows. I had lost touch with my soul when I was spinning around exam rooms doing standard of care pediatrics. What other suggestions do you have, if any, that help a person stay in touch with our soul? Because I feel like if we're in touch with our soul, we're going to do the best we possibly can for our kids, and excuses just evaporate.
I agree. Plants are living. Plants have an energy, right? And so when they are cut and consumed for our benefit, I feel gratitude. When you prepare those foods from scratch with love, it is creating a higher vibrational food to nourish and feed back. When foods are made with love, love has one of the highest, I think the highest vibrational frequency of anything is love. And so you are bringing that love to your family, to your children, to yourself. So eating those soulless processed foods on a shelf, are they easier? 100%. Are there days I've come home from work and the last thing I want to do is cook? I understand that too. But I say, this is not going to feed my and I'll use it again, my soul. I need to be mindful. And this is what I want. The love in that food is what I want to bring to my family. And even though my kids are grown, Paul, and they're gone, I have a cat, I have chickens. I do the same for them. I bring the same amount of attention and care into the food processing that I'm sharing with my animal family and my plants. I have plants all over my house. Why is that? Because we know they also nurture our soul, and those plants clean our air for us. I have spider plants everywhere. They're great house plants. They grow easily and they filter the air so that I can be my best self and vibrate at my highest frequency. So this is why another reason that it is so important the love and attention detail that you're putting into your food. So I'd say we have to kind of shift and direct our attention to what we're eating. We as Americans got sidetracked, some from us, some from industry. We were sold by this constant media barrage starting in the 60s when women returned to the workforce. Busy mom, let KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, come in. One of the first, I think, fast foods was KFC. Let Taco Bell come in, like McDonald's come in. Initially, those foods weren't so bad, but now we know they're pure garbage. So those foods have really morphed into, we don't even need to go there, Paul. So we have to ask ourselves, why have we allowed ourselves to eat this garbage? And intuitively, we know it's garbage because we are overfed and undernourished, both in nutritional density, in the energy of the food, and in the love that's put in there that it takes to make it. Making food in some huge factory in China or the US, for that matter, is not soul replenishing.
That is so beautiful. I want to end it on that, but I want to get a little more time with you. What else is burning in your heart and soul? I know you've got your new book coming. You've got your website. What are the things that you would want our audience to know?
Well, there are two looming topics and I'll make it super quick. One would be, again, I've been focused on the GMOs, but it's GMOs and geoengineering. I have a talk on the other screen that I'm cooking right now. I think I'm going to run it, this talk, because people go, what? GMOs and geoengineering? I've been really concerned about geoengineering. People say, oh, that's a conspiracy. Well, we've got 3 states that pass laws about the conspiracy, and we have, I think, 34 states now total looking at legislation to ban geoengineering. And I don't want to get into that so much, another show, Paul, but they are also experimenting, patenting, using GMOs in their geoengineering, so much so that we may be all breathing GMOs, even if we're choosing not to eat it. They're putting it in our food, our air, our water. We're not going to have choice. So that's one topic that's looming that I'm very concerned about. And in this geoengineering, they also putting in toxic metals in that geoengineered droppings, like aluminum and barium. I'm seeing strontium, all these toxic metal for kids. Oh my God. The second thing is mRNA vaccines being produced by plants. Moderna, I think a Moderna sidearm is about to release it out of UC Riverside, I believe, and I need to do more research on this. And I'm thinking we're creating plans to produce mRNA vaccines. How can that go wrong?
That way we eat them, right? Must be the idea.
I'm thinking, oh my God. So then are they going to label those? We're all going to be forced to be eating mRNA vaccines and plants because they're not going to be telling us what we're eating because they've already shown us that's what they do. So those are 2 looming topics that I think every eater needs to be aware of, how there's an attack, coordinated attack on our food, because if they're dropping stuff from the skies, our plants are also being affected, and the microbiota of plants. Healthy plants exist because of the microbiome of the soil, very analogous to our own microbiota. And we discussed that in our obesity show. We'll have another show on the microbiome. So these are things that are really looming for me that I'm very concerned about. And I'm also concerned about how GMOs, I call it CRISPR, GMOs 2.0, have morphed into an unregulated kind of disaster. Every lab is using CRISPR, which is an even more sophisticated form of genetic engineering. And we're using it in our technology. mRNA vaccines are genetically engineered. Medications are GMO, like insulin. For one, you say, well, these are beneficial things. Some may be, but they are often unregulated. mRNA, that's a whole nother topic, but we've seen the side effects of unregulated technology, and no one is looking at this. A lot of labs are using genetic GMOs or genetically engineered organisms in their lab to run experiments, just dumping it in the wastewater. They are just like pouring it down the drain, all those different things. So I'm thinking we need massive rehaul of genetic engineering by our government. And this couldn't happen soon enough. This is one of my shout outs to Secretary Kennedy. If you're listening, we need to really take a hard look at this and regulate it immediately.
These contaminants and these toxins that are entering our food system, they're also entering our water system and the air we breathe. We've talked today about food, but do you have any thoughts about water? Because it's getting into the water supply. What are you doing about water, if anything?
So what I would recommend is we need to filter our water and to buy the best system that you can possibly afford, whether that's a simple carbon pitcher or a whole house RO, reverse osmosis system. Really invest in looking at that. And I send people to Environmental Working Group. EWG has a really good advice on water systems, but I have an under sink system, a very expensive water filter system. Many of my colleagues have a whole house, even in their showers are filtered. So we have to filter our water, but we also want to make sure that our children and ourselves are receiving enough nutrition. And even in organics, the nutritional density of our food has plummeted. In ultra-processed food, it's abysmal. School lunches, almost zero. But it's still higher in organics, but may not be enough. So I've been supplementing most kids with clean multivitamins, yet again, another topic, and making sure kids and adults are eating a lot of fermented foods and or pre and probiotics. There's even postbiotics, but I digress. And that detoxification needs to happen on a regular basis. So you say detox, that's a solution, 100%. The best way to detox is to sweat. Yes, sweating, that means exercise. I have a little infrared sauna portable in my house, and I do that once every week or two just to get a really good sweat going and have your kids running around, sweating. It's beautiful. But I also recommend a lot of detox baths for my patients. It's another great way, at least weekly, to release, your body will. Your skin's a great detox organ. Sweat out some of these toxins, not all of them. If you use a bath with Epsom salt, sea salt, baking soda, and I throw a little boron or borax in there, and then sit nice and hot. And when the water starts to cool, either heat it back up or get out, because you don't want to reabsorb whatever you secreted, and then rinse off. If you don't rinse off after your detox bath, you will reabsorb a lot of these toxicants that you just spent 20 minutes sweating out. 15, 20 minutes ideal, stay longer, but just reheat the water. So these are some things I tell parents to do. It's in my upcoming book. That a little freebie, parents, adults. I think that has to be part of what we teach people to do on a regular basis because of our toxic environment.
That's beautiful. So in closing, I want to end with a message of hope. The thought I had was, but you can expand on this. When we started chatting right before the show, you mentioned we were talking about the stresses of the world and the stresses of reading stuff that's going on in the world. And I know children and adults are going through this. There's so much coming at us. And then you talked about walking out and going into to deal with your chickens and how that grounded you back. You've given us a lot of powerful information of things to be aware of, which some of it is anxiety provoking, and you've also given us a lot of solutions. But I want you to end on your message of hope for the audience.
Absolutely. And I want to be clear, Paul, in the morning I wake up and I'm doing a little bit of doom scrolling on the phone here. And because I want to stay involved, and I get involved in politics and changing things in my community, in the school, in our local government, Sacramento, or in the nation's government, that we have to create real change. As I'm telling parents to detox, it's like we're also working to fix the problem while we're detoxing. But to remember people, ground in nature. Be with animals, get your hands dirty, go hug a tree. I couldn't stress it enough. Sunshine, movement in nature. It could be a park. It could be a river. Animals are wonderful, sharing microbiomes. I go down to my chickens. I'm getting some, hay for them to feed. I am getting in my garden, pulling out some weeds. And then I go hug the bay tree. This allows me to reground. There's a study that showed that when you're stressed, and your sympathetic tone is really high, you go lay in the grass for just 10 minutes, you feel better. And it's been shown on blood analysis. Your live blood analysis looks better. Your blood is so much healthier. So what I say is we all need to be mindful. Limit your time with doom scrolling or whatever we're doing, or your activism. Everyone needs to get off the couch. Not just me and Paul, please, people. Everyone do what you can. But yet take care. And again, we're back to the soul, nourish mind, body, spirit. We want to be in the zone. And I think the best way we can do that for our families is with nature, loving kindness, being with animals, and surrounding ourselves with plants.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Dr. Perro. I'm not going to add anything to that. That was beautiful. We're having you back again. Obviously, we just touched on so many things we need to cover, and I can't wait for that new book to come out. We will definitely be highlighting that as well. Folks, thanks for watching. I appreciate your attention to everything we bring to you on this show, Pediatric Perspectives, and I'm just grateful that you're a part of this team, this family. We'll see you next week.
Okay, we are live right now. So tell everyone your name.
My name's Gary Adams.
And Gary, what happened to you?
In April of 2021, April 10th, I decided to get the Pfizer jab.
Why did you decide to get it?
I had COVID in December of 2020, and I had some long hauler symptoms, which was mainly brain fog and some fatigue. And one day I was listening to the radio, and I heard a doctor, which found out it was now propaganda, that was basically saying that we can help you with your symptoms, your long hauler symptoms, by getting the vaccine. My gut was telling me no, don't do it, but my mind and my body was wanting relief from those side effects.
Okay, so I'm just going to summarize this up a second. You got COVID,
Yes, ma'am.
got sick, and had long COVID symptoms, as they call them.
Yes.
You heard an interview on the mainstream media
Exactly.
that said if you have long COVID, you should take another shot.
Yes. And
Before you had long COVID and COVID or whatever,
yes.
how were you as a person? Were you a sick person or?
No, I mean, I have spinal issues. I had surgery. I was disabled in 2012. But I lived my life, I continued to live life. I became a photographer. My brain was always problem solving, and photography and art became a passion, exercise, mental therapy for me. So I lived life. I'm married. I have, 2 kids, 1 bonus child, and life was great. I got married in 2017. I'm sorry, 2018. Sorry, life. But life was good. I did. I've traveled, photography.
So, okay, so you got COVID, you got long COVID, you were told by some radio or whatever, TV advert to go get a shot. So you go, and where'd you go?
I went to the St. Louis Auto Show, and FEMA was doing a mass vaccination campaign at that time. I think Governor Parson agreed to have it, put in place. So while I was at the auto show, walking around, I saw that they were there, and I debated, do I want to get this, do I not? Finally, I said, I'm going to get it, and that.
So you
changed my
go.
life
So you
forever.
go to this place.
Uh-huh.
Did you tell them that you had these awful symptoms from COVID? Did you have a conversation with them about any side effects? Did they take your blood pressure? Did any of this go on?
No, it was like a bunch of sheep being herded into a long line to wait for this shot, and they were just rushing people through.
No
Pretty
conversation?
Not much at all. I talked to the National Guard that was administering it, just general conversation about where they're from, but they weren't very interested in my story.
They
or
asked
why I'm there, or what,
No
nothing.
medical history?
No, that I can recall, no.
Okay, so you take this Pfizer shot,
Yeah.
just the one.
On April 10th,
Yeah.
2021, I have a pretty, now that I'm able to look at the badge through VAERS, I have a pretty rough badge. A lot of deaths, 39 deaths associated, and like 1,921 adverse effects reported. I get that on 4/10/21. The next day, I had flu-like symptoms, fever, fatigue. Was in bed pretty much all day. Thought, okay, that's gonna be it. And the next day, I woke up is whenever my life was flipped upside down from this.
And talk me through what happened.
I woke up, a lot of dizziness, confusion. I noticed I had light and sound triggers, so whenever I would look at a bright light source, I would get this instant head pain, dizziness, and I was just collapsing to the ground, falling, blacking out, not remembering how I got there. I'm a pretty big guy, and so my wife and my kids pretty much became my caregivers overnight. They couldn't pick me up, but I had to figure out what was going on. This was scary for them and myself. My memory was shot. Short-term memory, long-term memory. I was living in a life of confusion, major brain fog. I have to look at my notes here.
Okay.
The one thing that bothered me the most is when I would get this head pain, I would start getting this neurological pain, like my skin was on fire from head down to my toes. My knees started buckling, almost like ALS type side effects, symptoms. So this went on a week leading up to Friday. I got into my primary physician. At that point, my wife was already my power of attorney. I couldn't make any decisions, I could barely even tell my story, what was going on, and describe it in detail of how I was actually feeling.
Did you know at this point it was the Pfizer shot?
Absolutely,
So you knew.
because it amplified those side effects times 100. I mean, it just basically overnight, it did that to me. And Friday, I went to my doctor, and he blew it off. He gaslit me. At one point, my wife was trying to fill in the gaps of what was going on, and he straight up told her to sit down and shut up and sit down. And that's whenever we decided we're done with this doctor. I could barely walk out of the doctor that day. I was in a wheelchair. I remember two gentlemen helping me into my car, but my doctor was pretty much, I mean, I was shocked. You know, I wasn't getting any care, and I was being ignored what was being told. That Sunday, I was in the hospital. I went to my family took me to the hospital, and I was admitted for 4 days in the hospital.
With what?
With the memory issues, the falls, all the side effects is why I went to the hospital. My cognitive decline was like going downhill drastically. I wasn't able to answer the simple questions in the emergency room. Who is our president? Where am I? What day is it? I had difficulties with that. I also went through a series of tests, EKG, EEG. They checked me for dementia. They checked me for strokes. I had really bad tremors too. The tremors were, and the knee buckling was kind of associated together. They weren't finding anything on these tests. 4 days in the hospital, I was gaslit the whole time. I remember on day 4 when I went home, they told me I woke up to 4 doctors hovering over the bed, and they were psychiatric doctors saying, you know, this is basically all in your head. It's anxiety you're dealing with, and you need to do deep breathing exercises. You need to take these 4 meds. They put me on Klonopin, they put me on an antidepressant, and there was 2 others, but it caused more brain fog than anything. And
You took them. Did you take the drugs?
Yes, I did.
Are you still on them now?
No.
Good.
Thankfully, to the care I'm getting now, she pulled me off those. So I went home. I was given a walker at the hospital, did some occupational therapy before discharge, and then we went home. Still, everything was, you know, a question mark. How do we take care of Gary? That was my family. It took a toll on them. So my wife got me through a friend recommended speech, occupational, and physical therapy, like an intensive outpatient therapy through SSM here in St. Louis. And it was 5.5 hours a day for 8 weeks, and they taught me everything I needed to know about if I fell at home, how to get up. Speech therapy, that's where they found the triggers for my light and sound, because I was in food also. When I came in, they were unsure if they were going to be able to help me, because I was barely able to walk. I was in a wheelchair. I wasn't able to do any of the cognitive exercises. They thought they were going to have to discharge me, but I pushed myself. I had to. And in speech therapy, when I say light and sound triggers, I had to wear sunglasses for almost 2 years, 75% of my day, in my house, outside. And sound, I get tinnitus, ringing of the ears really bad, and it would cause me to collapse in public places. I had to avoid public places for almost 2 years. I couldn't handle it. My mind couldn't process sounds. So I was going through speech therapy, and I was doing these tasks great. My mind was processing fine. And they're like, what is going on? You're telling us this is going on at home, and we're not seeing it in here. Well, they introduced something that would interrupt, or like a distraction. He left the door open one day, and I was just doing like a simple task of alphabetizing addresses, and if it was the same city, I would break it down by alphabetical order. So they introduced sound as a distraction. So I'm hearing all this background noise outside the room while I'm doing these tasks. Instantly, the head pain came on, the neurological burning, the tremors, and I was unable. I crashed in fatigue too. That's been a really big one, fatigue. And I was unable to complete it. And they're like, okay, we identified this trigger. How can we help you? There was no help other than just avoiding that type of interaction where I had to use my brain. So that allowed me not to be able to critically think, research what was going on with me. So they identified that. The light, that my protection was sunglasses and solar shields. They recommended solar shields because light even coming in from the side, headlights, restricted my driving, because if I was triggered while driving, I would have tremors, I would get in an accident. I wasn't in the right mind frame or safe to drive a vehicle. So that helped to identify, those, and then it became food. Food has been my biggest trigger. Never had food allergies, no problems, other than a little lactose intolerant, but everything I was putting in my body was causing fatigue, inflammation from the spike proteins, the neural burning, and the same effects was going on as the light and sound, other than the ringing of the ears. So I went on an anti-inflammatory diet, reduced all of the foods, wheat, sugar, alcohol, went to alternatives, almond milk. My wife did all this for me. My diet, my food prep, everything. Then that leads into finding ivermectin. Ivermectin was great, helped with the inflammation. I was taking 48 milligrams a day. I still take it. It was controversial. If I talked about it, trying to tell my story, I would get banned on social media, Facebook especially. And it just, the ivermectin was really the only thing I had that was helping. I was taking all these supplements. I was taking advice from people on the internet. Try this, try grounding techniques, try this supplement, try, this vitamin, this detox tea. I was grateful that people were trying to help me, but I had all this stuff in my system, all these expenses. Nobody was helping with the therapies,
So the ivermectin helped you. Just want
Yes, it
to
did.
say to our viewers that Children's Health Defence cannot and does not give out medical advice. So this is just this man's experience, and we learn from this.
Understand. So, I went on at that point. The ivermectin was helping me, especially with the neurological burning. It was reducing that. At the same time, I learned more about plant medicine, cannabis, and Rick Simpson oil, which is given to cancer patients, HIV patients in the past, became a wonder medicine as well, along with the ivermectin for inflammation, insomnia that I had a lot of side effects from this, but the cannabis oil had really helped.
So basically, no mainstream doctor helped you.
No, they didn't.
They lied to you. You got the shot. No
Yes.
one was there for you.
I was gaslit
and so you had
badly.
to. Your wife had to step up and become your doctor.
My doctor, she described my condition as someone with a toddler with dementia. She had to babysit me. I would get lost in my house because my mind couldn't process. I wandered off in my neighborhood while they were gone, and they had GPS on my phone, so it would alert them if I went outside our circle. And I was lost. I had no way how to get home, so that's when it became very noticeable.
So my question to you is this: describe what taking that one shot, all the lies that you were told, describe what it has taken from your life today.
It is. It's hell. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. Do your research, but it's flipped my life upside down. It's taken not just a mental toll on me, but it's taken my health. It's taken my soul, hope, lost faith. I was even recently suicidal. I've never had any mental health problems like that, in my past. And just so many 2 years of living in hell like that every day, not being able to go outside, not being able to advocate, not being able to get the right help in the mainstream. It just took a really big toll on my mental health. And I can't, my life will never be the same ever again. It took driving away, I'm a professional photographer, and that creative niche in my brain still doesn't function at all. I mean, my brain is my biggest concern right now. Feels like it's on fire at times. I forget. I have long-term, short-term memory loss. It takes away emotion too. I was a very empathetic person. I was caring. I don't carry those emotions anymore. At times I do, for the vax injured and those that are struggling like I am. I have empathy for, but I don't have that emotion anymore. That's the best I can describe it. It's taken that from me as well.
So will you ever take another vaccine again?
No,
or
I will not.
Any?
Absolutely not. And I was not an anti-vaxxer at all. I thought I was being a smart vaxxer is what I call it. Just doing the right thing and trusting science. I wasn't familiar with the whole vax injuries prior to the COVID jab and what others dealt with. I wish I would have done my research. I wouldn't have taken it if I would have done my research. And that's what I hope for anybody that's listening to me. Do your research. Don't listen to mainstream media.
We need to get you a copy of Brian Hooker's Vaxxed Unvaxxed book, because there is good science.
Okay.
We're doing it at Children's Health Defense. What we don't want is the Pfizer-funded science.
Yeah.
What about mainstream news? You're going to continue to listen to Fauci and all those obviously not Fauci.
No, I will not.
All those people.
No, I don't even like. I even called out mainstream media on letting them know this bus is here today. Can you come out and cover the story? I get ignored. They would feature my work on my photography on their network with no problem, but when it comes to talking to politicians and talking to the media, it's crickets. I don't hear anything, and it's frustrating because they're sick people, and we need a support group in this area, and we need voices to speak out. So I know I'm not the only one.
You're not. You see the signatures on the bus.
Yes.
All right, let's get you to sign the bus.
Okay. Can I mention one more thing?
Please.
My therapy was done through Dr. Molly James in the James Clinic here in St. Louis. She offers hyperbaric oxygen therapy, EBU, ozone therapy, vitamin infusions. That's what has helped me, given me my life back. That's why I'm here, to be able to talk to you. They're compassionate. I know there's many doctors out there too that are frontline COVID fighters. She didn't mandates. That's what led her to where she's at. She wouldn't take the jab, and they were mandating her. And please, if you're sick and in St. Louis area, go see Dr. Molly James. And this isn't a paid advertisement. This is just a testimonial that you can get your life back.
What's helped you? It's very important. Yeah.
The EBU was the biggest one. That was my last treatment. It's like dialysis, where they filter out the blood and put the blood back in. And it wasn't very invasive. It was very easy treatment, and that's helped me the most.
I'm pleased that you're getting better. And again, Children's Health Defense do not give out medical advice, so this is just this guy's journey, and I'm so grateful to you for speaking out about this, and we're so sorry that
Thank
this
you for
happened to
having
you.
me and giving me the voice, because it's been suppressed for so long. I've even eliminated my Facebook after just recent. I've been speaking out, and I get restricted and banned. And
Welcome to our world.
Yes, I'm finding out.
Okay, well, he's going to go and sign the bus, and we have a lot of stories today, people, so stay tuned, and we'll be back soon.
Thank you.